Okay. What a joy it is to be here. I had the great fortune of spending the weekend with your practitioners, working through some of the things that they've been going through. And I have to tell you that your community is amazingly blessed by an intensely deep group of practitioners. So let's just give them a hand. You know, not only do they hold the consciousness for you during the services and available for prayer afterwards, but they're a great resource when you're working through any kind of issue in your life. So I highly encourage you to seek out their guidance at any time. And even if you don't have an issue going on that you want to solve, maybe you've got something that you want to continue that's really good, and you want to make sure that stays in your life. And so a practitioner can help you with that. So I really encourage that. As Dinah said, I've known Reverend Jeffrey. He tells the story much better than I do, but apparently I gave him his very first hug at a Center for Spiritual Living, and since then he's been hooked. So, like I said, he does a better job of telling the story than me, but he'll laugh, I can tell right now. So, it's really an honor to be here. I've been all over the Southwest this summer, speaking and doing workshops. Last weekend I was in Tucson, before that Monterey, all over the place. I've actually only been home one weekend all summer, so it's been exciting and fun to do this work. So Reverend Jeffrey told me that your theme for the month is revealing wholeness. And when we were talking about me coming out here, I said, well, this is a perfect talk and workshop for revealing wholeness within. You know, if we look at all the spiritual text throughout the world, all the different ones, they refer to that wholeness that's within us, those spiritual ideas of love and wisdom and clarity and prosperity and peace as a treasure of some sort. They often refer to them, let's see if I can get that. Am I hitting it? Oh, there we go. As a jewel. You'll hear hidden jewels or hidden treasures, pearls of great price, throughout all the different religious texts. Now remember, religious texts are not to be interpreted literally. They are not just, they're a metaphor. And so they use words that have often mistakenly been interpreted as literal words to mean a metaphorical meaning, some kind of a deeper meaning to it. And so when we look at the Christian scriptures, if we look at the New Testament, we have the parables of Jesus. And in the parables of Jesus, there's two of them. One of them is called the parable of the hidden treasure, and then right after it is the parable of a pearl of great price. And so these two parables, Jesus is equating the kingdom of heaven to these things. The kingdom of heaven is like a hidden treasure that is so valuable that when discovered by a person, they would go and sell everything that they owned so that they could buy the land where that treasure was hidden. And the same thing with the pearl of great price. The pearl of great price is like the kingdom of heaven. Well, what do we know about the kingdom of heaven? We say the kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus said it himself, the kingdom of heaven is within. So that everything that is within heaven is already within us. All of the wisdom, all of the clarity, all the love, all the peace, all the guidance, all of that we could ever want is already within us. Okay. And so we have another reference to jewels in the New Testament. At the very end of the New Testament, in the book of Revelations, they talk about the temple of the New Jerusalem. And in the foundation stones of the temple of the New Jerusalem are 12 jewels. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins, in her book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice, has 12 chapters, and each chapter deals with one of these jewels. She equates these jewels to a different apostle. Each of the 12 apostles, is described as one of these jewels. And each one of these jewels stands for a spiritual meaning. John stands for love. Peter stands for wisdom. Paul stands for faith. These are spiritual ideas. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds that represent these spiritual concepts. If we look at the Hindu text, which goes back to about 4,000 years, we see an idea of something that's called the Indra's net. Indra's net is a web that encompasses the entire universe. It's like a fishing net. If you think of a fishing net where it has all of these places where it interconnects, and in each one of those intersections of the net is a precious jewel. And each one of those jewels stands for a consciousness. And so each one of our consciousnesses are represented by a jewel on Indra's net. If we look at the Buddhist traditions, we have the 3 jewels of Buddha. The 3 jewels of Buddha are compassion, frugality, and humility. And then they talk about the 3 jewels of Buddhism, which are Buddha, the teacher, Dharma, the teaching, and Sangha, the community. But again, these are spiritual concepts being equated to being a jewel, something of great value. When we look at Islam, in the Quran, they talk about the 12 jewels of Islam. The 12 jewels of Islam are love, peace, unity, wholeness, wisdom, compassion. They also include food, shelter, and clothing, because they're also getting into that practical aspect of spirituality that we often overlook. We think of only the high spiritual ideas, but there's also this actual living as a spiritual being. And so all of the different scriptures talk about these jewels, hidden treasures, jewels of great price. So my talk title is Excavating the Hidden Treasure. So how do we get that out of us? If everything is within of us, the kingdom of heaven is inside of us, how do we go in and find it? Well, I found several different ways in my experience on my spiritual journey of how to discover that. And some of the ways are more pleasant than others. So I had just started at the center in Las Vegas, and I was working with a group of women on what we called body issues. We weren't going to say it was weight loss, but we said body issues. Little spiritual bypass there for you. So one of the people is leading us through this meditation. And during the meditation, I had what is commonly called a 2x4 moment. Anybody ever experienced one? In a 2x4 moment, it's pretty much what it sounds like. You feel like you have been hit upside the head with a 2x4. And it's a physical body sensation that happens. So in this 2x4 moment that I had, I realized that I had spent the last 50 years of my life eating my anger. It was shocking to me. It was shocking to me to realize how strongly those things were related to each other. I had a total aversion to any kind of conflict. If I was in any situation where people felt like people were going to get angry, I'd hit the road. I was out of there. And I realized how much that had impacted my life. So that's a 2x4 moment. Quantum physicists have a great name for it. They call it a discontinuous event. It's something that just happens out of the blue. You might call it an aha moment, which is a little more gentle than a 2x4 moment. But you might have heard the phrase a quantum leap. That's what it is. It's when all of a sudden something comes to you out of the blue and there's not a lot of association to it. It's just like, just all of a sudden that happens. And so it's a discontinuous event or a quantum leap. So that's one way that I have gained spiritual wisdom. A second way that I've gained it is what the mystics call the dark night of the soul. Now, the dark night of the soul usually comes along when you're in some kind of an experience where there's only one thing left to do, and that is to surrender. When the dark night of the soul happened to me was in 2008. My older brother was dying of a horrible brain tumor. He had one of those very invasive brain tumors that just take over. And they had given him 6 to 9 months to live, and he was progressing very rapidly. And so this was about 2 weeks before he passed. And I'm at work one day. I was a computer specialist at an elementary school, and so I didn't have a class per se. I would go around to different classes and help. And so I had a little bit of flexibility in my schedule. And so I'm walking around that day, and I can't function. I had a physical sensation in my body that was kind of like dizzy, weaving, really bizarre feeling in my body. And I thought, I can't work. I can't function here today. But I felt really silly going to my principal and saying, I got this body sensation going on. I can't work. He's not going to understand it. So I went into my office, and I shut the door, and I turned out the light, and I said, I am just going to sit here until something happens because I cannot do anything else. And so I just turned out the light, and I sat there in the silence. And very quickly I heard that voice, that voice that it's God, and you can't explain it to anybody else, but that's what it is. And the voice said to me, there is no pain, there is no suffering, there's only peace. And I was totally transformed. I had a completely different understanding of the connection of life to spirit. I had a total and deep knowing of the eternality of life after that moment. Dark night of the soul. You'll hear many mystics talk about it. There's even books that are written about the dark night of the soul. But like I said, it happens when there is absolutely nothing we can do but surrender. So those are two ways that I've received spiritual guidance where I haven't actually gone out and sought it. It just came to me. So I began, meditation was the thing that really intrigued me to Centers for Spiritual Living. As I said, I was working with this group of women on body issues, and every week we would do some kind of meditation, and it was my first experience at it. And so when I'm a total geek. I just honestly admit it. I'm a total geek. When I learn anything, I have to go and totally research it and find out everything I can possibly find out about it. And so I was having a ball finding all these different kinds of meditation and practicing them. And I still do. I teach meditation is more than you think, and I have I think I have 38 different meditations in there that we do. And so there's lots of ways of gaining this spiritual wisdom. And the trick is to find the one that really works for you. And it may work for you for a while, and then it doesn't work anymore, and it's time to try something new. So I was at a women's retreat in 2015 up in Northern California, and there were these little breakout sessions we could go to, and someone who was offering a session on something called Zen Tangles. Now, anybody know what Zen Tangles are? A few of you? I had never experienced it before, but it involved drawing and meditation. I thought, well, this is a different way to meditate. Let's try it out. So I went to the Zen Tangle workshop, and I completed two different drawings here. These are two squares. Now, Zen Tangles are done on a 3.5-inch square card. So it's a small little drawing that you can do in a short period of time. Zen Tangles are kind of free form. They incorporate different elements, and you put them together in the ways that you want. And so I started doing Zen Tangles. There's about 50 of them there that I did over a course of time. I decided to dedicate myself to trying to do one every single morning. And so that's what I was doing. Every morning I would get up in my quiet time and sit and do these Zen Tangles. Well, I liked them a lot, but I was honestly shocked at how many rules these people had about their Zen Tangles. You couldn't use this, and you couldn't do that, and you had to do it this way. And I'm like, I'm generally a person who likes to follow rules, but this was way too many for me. I wanted to be able to make things that looked like something, and they don't want you to do that. I wanted to be able to draw a straight line with a ruler, because I don't know about anybody else, but when I draw a line, I like it to be straight. When I draw a circle, I like it to be circular. That's just kind of the way I am. But they didn't want you to do that. So I started branching out a little bit with things like that. Well, one day I drew a Zen Tangle that looked like this. And you can see that design that's in the center there. It looked like a flower. Now, they would have not liked that because it looked like something. There was something about that I just simply loved. I don't know what it was, but it really hit me, and I really liked it. And so I started drawing that flower in different kinds of ways, different kinds of configurations. One day, in fact, it was my birthday, I decided, I like this flower so much, I'm just going to let myself draw it. And so on my birthday in 2016, I drew this Zen Tangle here, which is nothing but that flower. And then I really started working with that flower even more and doing just the flower with a little bit around it. Until one day, I drew this one. And I looked at it and I thought, whoa, that's a mandala. Now, I had been intrigued by mandalas since I read the work of Carl Jung. Carl Jung, the psychologist, drew a mandala every single morning for 2 years in his journal. If you look at some of his books, there are actual drawings of his mandalas in there. He did it for 2 years, and one day he woke up and he said he was done. But he talks a lot about the symbology of the mandala and how it is about a journey from within ourselves and to an outward expression. And so that had always intrigued me. I had done different work with mandalas that I had purchased, but I had never tried to draw one. So then I started drawing mandalas every morning. So throughout this process of drawing the mandalas, what I would do is I would often take a question into my drawing. So I would ask myself a question as I sat down to do the drawing. Actually, as I sat down to prepare the card even that I was working with. And the questions would vary, it just depends on what it was. Well, as I said, when I started at the center, I was working with my weight. And being obese my entire life, for the last 15 years or so, doctors had been telling me I needed to have the weight loss surgery. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Nope, no, I will try everything else. I was not doing that. And I had tried everything else. I'd spent 18 months as a vegan, and I would lose 50, 60 pounds and then put it back on, and try this, and I'd lose 50 or 60 pounds and put it back on, and I've done that all my life. So I sat down with the question, what is my resistance to having this surgery? And very quickly I heard, well, you should be smart enough not to have to do it. You should be spiritual enough not to have to do that. You should have enough willpower not to have to do that. And then I realized, well, isn't that a hell of a way to beat myself up? The next day I called, had the surgery. I've lost 105 pounds. So, yeah. It's a work in progress, it's still going, and I'm feeling good, and all my blood work and everything is fabulous, and the doctors are thrilled, and so I'm very ecstatic about it. But the guidance came to me when I sought it. I asked a question, I found the answer quickly. By being in that silence, by allowing myself, what drawing these mandalas does is it engages that chattering mind. The Buddhists call it the monkey mind. Anybody tried to meditate and never heard that? You start doing your grocery list, the list of things you have to do, the argument that you had with your spouse, 100 different things. I'm hungry right now. Oh, boy, doesn't a cup of coffee sound good? That's the monkey mind. Well, what this does is it engages it. It keeps it busy, which allows for that other insight to come up and be heard. So sometimes I ask a question when I'm going in there. And sometimes I just ask like an open-ended question. I'll ask, God, what would you have me know? What do I need to know today? And so I was doing this in early December this past year. And that was the question I asked. What would you have me know today? And I heard, you need to start wearing ties. And I thought, really? Now, I dress pretty androgynously anyway, so it wasn't that far of a stretch, but I'm not, ties, okay. And as I said, I'm a total geek, so I researched women wearing ties. There's a lot of information out there about that. There are even blogs about it. There's a whole name for it. It's called Dapper. I like this. And then I did my second favorite thing to research, and that was to get on Amazon and buy ties. So I bought ties. I decided that I liked the skinny ties. I didn't like the really wide ties. I liked the skinny ties. And so I bought a lot of ties. And I started wearing them. Well, it was Christmas time before I started wearing it, because it took me a couple of weeks to do my research and order the ties. I thought, well, I'm going to start with a Christmas tie because, it's festive. What are people going to say? I'm wearing a Christmas tie. So I bought myself a white tie with little green Christmas trees on it, and I put it underneath of a red sweater vest. So it was just a little subtle bit of tie showing. I put that tie on, and something completely changed within me. And the way that I described it is, I found an unapologetic confidence within myself by simply putting on a tie. I was actually dressing more in alignment with who I felt I was, who I came here to be. It has shifted so many things in my life. Since then, I have written 2 books. I have created a whole slew of products, which you will see at my Mandala mini mall in the hallway. I am bursting forth with creativity simply because I listened to Spirit and I started wearing a tie. I have an unapologetic confidence that came through my spiritual practice. And that's what I'm here to offer for you today, is to find those hidden gems that are waiting within inside of you to be discovered. And so the process today, when I was doing this, I just show it. I think I have one more slide. That's my latest 50. So I do one every day. I'm at about 800 right now. They take about 30 to 45 minutes to do. And like I said, it's on a little card, 3.5-inch artist tile. We use really good pens and everything. When I started doing it, as I said, I want my circles to be circular, I want my lines to be straight, and I want my spaces to be even between them. There's a term for this. It starts with an A, in case anybody knows, but that's what I like. Okay, so I started every morning sitting with my ruler and my protractor, measuring my 3.5-inch card, trying to get everything perfectly straight. My little angles, it's 22.5 degrees, by the way, in case you're wanting to know, for 16 sections on a circle. One day I said to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this, as I was taking that into the meditation. And what came through the meditation was create a template so that I don't have to measure it every day. I have a little template on a piece of cardstock. I put my tile down on there. I draw my lines. I make my circles. It's done in 5 minutes, and I'm ready to do my mandala each morning. And so discovering that has made all the difference in the world. And so that's what my workshop's going to be. I will show you how to make the template. I will show you how to use the template. I'll show you how to draw the mandalas. And then we're going to do one together where I give you all the instruction. And then you'll have a period to do one on your own where you can actually feel the meditative effects of it. And so I think it's the chapel, is that what you call it? Where we're going to be, downstairs in the chapel after service. It's a 2-hour workshop. I think Reverend Jeffrey set at $30. If that is an issue for anyone, just talk to me and we'll work it out. It's not a problem. I prefer that people come and attend the workshop. So I hope you join us this afternoon. And again, it's been my great pleasure to be here. I love Reverend Jeffrey, and I love what I'm seeing at this place. It's just amazing. Just even the stage is different from the last time I was here. So I love seeing everything else. You've got fabulous music. You've got a dedicated staff on your core council. Your practitioner core is phenomenal. And you guys are ready to bust open at the seams. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And so we're just going to anchor this in prayer. So I invite the licensed practitioners and any ministers that are here and our core council to stand and surround the sanctuary as they hold you in their love and support. What a beautiful group of dedicated people you have here. All right, so I just invite you to turn within. Now go within to that heart center. So wherever you call your heart center within your body, just allow your breath and your consciousness to rest there. And from this place of centered connection, I know that there is only one power, one presence, one divine creative source of all, and I call that one God. And I know that God is all there is. No matter what name you use, no matter what way you describe it, there is only one. This one divine presence and power that manifests itself through all life. And I know that this power is that power of love, that unconditional, perfect love, that peace that passeth all understanding, the wisdom and the clarity, and the divine right order that has brought everything into existence throughout all of time. Because I know that there is only one, I know that I am one with it, that all that God is resides within my being, and that I am that unique emanation of the one, created in love, wisdom, and peace. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone present here, for everyone within the sound of my voice, in fact, for everyone that has ever been. This is the truth of all life, that there is only this one, and it brings itself forward as us, through us, in all that we are and all that we do. And so in complete recognition of the power and the presence manifested as all life, I now speak my word. I know that this one, divine creator, has brought us to this place in time, to do this work, to be the presence of itself in form. I know that we are God's hands, God's heart, God's eyes, and God's voice here on earth, and that we have a right and an obligation to live our lives that way, as if we were already the perfection of God, made manifest right here and right now. For that is the truth of who we are. And I know that as we settle into that knowing and allow ourselves to be still, the voice of God is heard so easily and perfectly all of the time. That when we seek divine guidance is there for us. In our times of trouble, in our times of joy, that presence and that power is available to all. I know that it is through our spiritual practices that we realize this connection and that we use it to bring about a change not only in our lives but in the lives of everyone else around us. For I know that we are a beneficial presence to this world, right here and right now. We are the change we want to see in the world, and we are changing it every single moment. I'm so grateful to know this. I'm so grateful to feel this power and presence. I'm so grateful to see it shining back to me on the faces of the people here. And I know that this is a blessing to everyone. And so in loving gratitude, I simply release this word into the law, into the creative mind of God that always, always says yes. I release it, I let it go, and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.